Hello, everyone, and welcome to this video. Steve and I are back with yet another response to our debate that we did on Trinity Radio. We debated against James Harding and Chris Date, and we took the thesis that the dead remain conscious after death, and they took the thesis that the dead are unconscious after death. Today, we're going to be responding to one particular response that James had during the debate on the verse Luke 23:43. And essentially, this is called the hoti argument or the comma argument. And I want to be a little bit strong in my rhetoric here because this is an important video. Their entire case relies upon the comma placement in this verse. Ours does not. And so, Steve, take it away. Explain the importance of this argument for their position and why we think they're wrong. Or should we play the clip first but to kind of get an idea of the argument, or do you want to do that later?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and play the clip.
Okay. All right, so here is James with the hoti argument in Luke 23, verse 43.
They mention Luke 23:43, and this is all I'm going to say because I'm going to hand it over to Chris here. There are different ways of interpreting Luke 23:43, the thief on the cross. One argument is the hoti argument, mostly known as the comma argument, and I agree that it doesn't suffice to say that there are no commas in Greek. In Luke 4:21 and 19:19, two instances where Luke intended to relate semeron, today, to the clause following it rather than to the preceding verb. He separated the verb and semeron with hoti, that is that. I say to you that today, blah, blah, blah. So it seems more likely than not that Luke would have done the same in Luke 23:43 if his intention had been the same. I can't say much more now.
All right. So that's the argument. Why are they wrong?
Okay, so he said it's more likely than not. Okay, so for their argument to be correct, it needs to be a very strong more likely than not. Like he needs to establish that. And what we're going to establish tonight is you can't even really argue that it's reasonable to believe that the comma should be after today as what is necessary for their argument to be valid.
So I just pulled up one of the verses that he mentioned, Luke 19:9. Here's the Greek, if we want to walk through this with the audience and show them why he's wrong here.
Yeah. And so this verse Jesus doesn't say, truly I tell you. And so it begins with the true statement instead of that preamble or whatever you want to call it. And so today is the beginning of the true statement. And that's our argument for Luke 23:43 is that Jesus begins the truth statement with today, that hoti comes before today. And this verse he used to support his argument, hoti comes before today. And so for this to be a good verse to use in support of his belief, what he would need is for hoti to be after, or hoti to be after today. But that's not the case.
Yeah, hoti is before today. You can see hoti today afterwards. But also, I really think it's important. Those are two distinct problems with his argument here. Number one, this is not a truly I say to you statement, which is what we're going to talk about in a moment. Because in Luke 23:43, Jesus says, truly, truly, I say to you. This is something Jesus very often says when he's speaking and he's saying something authoritatively as the Son of God. He says, truly, truly, I say to you. And then there's a comma. And then he goes on to say something else. And that's what it says in Luke 23:43. Truly, truly, I say to you, today you'll be with me in paradise. That's the verse we're referring to with Luke 23:43. But in this verse, Luke 19:9, there is no truly, truly, I say to you. So that this, first of all, this is like a bad example of a parallel, because there is no truly, truly, I say to you here. So we're not even comparing. We're like comparing apples and oranges here. I think he was just looking for an example of, today hoti, even though this is still backwards. It's hoti today. But also, I think it's really important to note that he's saying salvation has come to this house today, meaning it's something that happened right then and right there. While Luke 23:43 is also not talking about that, even on their view. On their view, they would say, one day you'll be with me. Like, I'm telling you this today, but one day you'll be with me in paradise. But that is not a parallel with this verse. In this verse, this is happening right now. Salvation has come to this house today. And so there are many reasons why these verses are not good parallels. He gave one other one. Do you remember it off the top of your head? It was Luke.
Yes, Luke 4:21.
4:21. And it's going to have very similar problems, as we'll see.
Yeah.
So we see the hoti again before the today. So again, we have, it's not today hoti, it is hoti today. So that's going to be a problem. But also, again, there's no truly, truly I say to you here. And if you know this verse, this is Jesus is in the temple and he's saying, this scripture is being fulfilled before you today. So again, it's something that's happening right there in this moment. It's happening today. And so this is, again, not a good parallel for what they're trying to get out of Luke 23:43, because let's look at Luke 23:43, because this is the verse we're talking about. So we have truly, this is his truly I say to you statement, right? There's no hoti here, but today you'll be with me in paradise. Okay, so
they need the hoti to be after today.
Yeah, they need a hoti here. It's not there. So they're kind of just like, it's almost like, maybe this is a little uncharitable. Hopefully it's not. It's just like kind of wishful thinking. It's like, if there was a hoti here, this would be really helpful, but there's no hoti here, right? So, yeah, and I know that you have a lot of other things to say about this as well, but I just wanted to show the audience, he brought up two verses that are just completely not like the verse we are arguing for. Like we're making an argument from Luke 23:43. We're saying Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, today you'll be with me in paradise. And then where did Jesus go? He descended into the grave. He descended into Sheol. He descended into paradise, which we believe paradise is in Sheol. And so our argument is that the thief on the cross was on that day with Jesus in paradise. And their response to this is to try to say, well, no, actually, we're going to put a comma after today and say, truly, I say to you today, one day you'll be with me in paradise at the resurrection when Jesus returns. Like that's what they're trying to get this verse to say. But the verses they used, there's no truly, truly, I say to you. So it's not a true parallel. And, the hoti came after or before today. So it doesn't work either way.
Yeah. Yeah. Luke 4:21 and 19:9, they actually do more to support our argument than theirs.
Yeah.
Because it has the hoti before today. And that's the whole point of contention is where does the hoti go in relation today? And they provide verses where the hoti is before today. And it's like, well, that's completely contradictory to what, it's contrary to what you believe. Okay. So Jesus, he says, truly, I tell you, 76 times throughout the Gospels in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I went through and I went through each verse and counted when the hoti is used and when it's not. And so throughout the Gospels, it wasn't used in 44 times, but it was used 32 times. Now, in those, I believe the reason why it's not there in those 44 is because it's obvious where the hoti goes, where the comma goes. And so it's as if the writer, believed that it was obvious and wasn't necessary to include the hoti, they didn't include it. And then the 32 times that the authors did include hoti, it was always after the you. And so that's 100% of the time. So we either have it obvious where the comma goes, that it's obviously after the you, or they make sure that they put it after the you. Truly, I tell you. And so again, out of those 76 times, we have 0% of those giving any credence to their argument. And then not only that, but if you think about it, Luke here also wrote Acts, and I believe he also wrote Hebrews. But but if we hypothetically include those into the argument, like Luke doesn't include. Let's just stick to Acts. Like Luke doesn't use today in that sense in Acts either. And so you have Luke never using today in that sense. And we gotta remember that Luke wasn't an eyewitness. He makes that clear at the beginning of the of his account of the gospel, that he is gathering information from eyewitnesses. And so if let's say hypothetically, the eyewitness was telling him that, oh, Jesus was quoting or using today in the sense that Zechariah did or Deuteronomy did, you would think that Luke would know, okay, I need to do something special here, because whoever is giving me this account is specifically telling me how Jesus worded. I need to make sure that when I write this, Luke is one of the most refined grammatically out of the writers of the New Testament. And so someone of his expertise would have known, he would have need to add the hoti after today. So, but he doesn't do that. And so there's nothing to really go on to give any credence to their argument. And like we've been saying, like their whole argument depends on this comma. Without them being correct on the comma, the debate is over.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note too that basically no translations agree with them. You went and looked through, I think you said 900
Yes.
translations. So go through that as well, because I think that's a really important point to mention as well. Sorry, my dog's barking, if you can hear that.
No. Yeah, but yeah, so there are about 900 English translations of the Bible, and out of those 900, I could only find 5 that translated that had a translation where the comma came after today. And the most known out of those 5 is the New World Translation, the translation that the Jehovah's Witnesses made up just to conform to their doctrine. So we have the most well known of these translations is a blatant forgery. Like it's people trying to conform God's word to what they wanted to say. And then the other 4 that I found, they were written by individuals. Like it wasn't like a committee of people. One of them, like, it depends where I looked. One said that he had 200 anonymous sources. One said he had 50 online source editors. And so I could claim, hey, I created this translation of the Bible and I had 5,000 anonymous people help me with it, and so that's how it's reliable. It's like, well, like if it's not verifiable, then it's not really it's not saying much. And so that's the strength of their argument, is these 5 very obscure and unreliable sources that agree with them where the comma placement should be. And again, their entire argument depends on this.
I think that's important to note, because our case does not depend on this. Like, we have verses all over the place that we think teaches our view, but the idea is if the thief on the cross was with Jesus in paradise today, since they are Christian physicalists, the debate's over for their view. This comma has to go after the word today. This verse also, in our opinion, refutes the view that believers go straight to heaven. So in our opinion, this verse is only consonant with our view that we go to Sheol and paradise is in Sheol. The idea that whenever the body dies, there's nothing, Christian physicalism, which is what Chris and James hold to, or the idea that believers go straight to heaven when they die. Neither of these verses can make sense of Luke 23:43. So basically, their entire case relies upon where this comma is placed, which I think it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. So
and also, I think the "truly, truly, I say to you" thing is really important. That Steve mentioned earlier. He said, and he's right on this, that Jesus makes 76 "truly, truly, I say to you" statements, and the comma always goes after "truly, truly, I say to you." It's always that phrase and then comma and then what he says. And so Chris and James need Luke 23:43 to completely depart from Jesus's pattern of speaking. He needs to go from "truly, truly, I say to you," comma, to "truly, truly, I say to you today," comma. And it's like, did Jesus depart from the way that he spoke 75 other times for this one instance? I just think that it's very unlikely. And like you said, Luke pays incredible attention to detail. By the way, I also think Luke wrote Hebrews, so that's kind of funny. I didn't know that about you. So that's just another area where we share. But Luke is a very, very detailed writer, very detailed historian. You can just read his the Gospel of Luke and the Book of Acts, and you can see he says, there was this specific title in this specific city. We traveled this many miles and this many, like, he is so specific, and he is so detail oriented. And so if he was going to depart from Jesus's regular way of speaking, I think it's very reasonable to assume that he would have put the hoti or the hoti after the word today, just so it was clear that that is what he was saying. If that were in fact the case. So I agree with you, Steve. I think that's a really strong point that's worth emphasizing and repeating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like, go back to what you were saying about, the comma placement even refutes the idea that we go straight to heaven. In the first debate I did against Christian Holes, I believe he gave the best argument for the case that souls go straight to heaven, because what he was trying to do was he was trying to make it, he realized that he has to be consistent with Luke 23:43. So like he was trying to make his argument consistent with that, and most people don't do that. And so like what he did was he's like, okay, well, yeah, Jesus, him and the thief, they descended to Sheol, but within that 24 hours they ascended to heaven. And so that was his argument. But the problem with that argument is Jesus explicitly told his disciples in Matthew 12:40, or he said it to the Pharisees, actually, just as just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights, so will the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. And so the Pharisees, since their understanding of the intermediate state is that it's within the heart of the earth, they're just the importance of understanding the audience. And so their understanding of what Jesus said was, I'm going to be in the realm of the dead, the Sheol, Hades, for 3 days and 3 nights. And that's where he was going to be. We don't get this idea anywhere in the Bible that he descended to Hades or Sheol, for a brief moment of time, and then he ascended, briefly after that. And then it's like, so like, I think if I remember correctly, I think Christian was saying that that's when the saints were brought up to heaven. I could be wrong, but that still is problematic, because in, what is it, John 20:17, Jesus told Mary Magdalene that he had not yet ascended. And so everything that we have that gives us any kind of clear indication of what Jesus did or didn't do, we have only confirmation that he did not ascend to heaven after he died. He did. So that means paradise can't be in heaven. Paradise is in the heart of the earth. And then
also John 14, in John 14, Jesus tells his disciples, I'm going to go prepare a place for you, and then when I come back, I'll bring you to where I am. Right. So the idea is that he's preparing the place in the new heavens, and then he's going to unite the heavens and the earth whenever he returns, and then there will be the new heavens and the new earth. And so that's another problem with that view, is like, if the apostles aren't going to be in heaven when they die, why do we think we would be? Right. So but anyway,
also in Matthew 25:31-34, again, Jesus's immediate audience were his disciples, and he told them that is when they were going to inherit the kingdom he's preparing for them. And so this is a point of agreement with us and Chris and James. And so what we would like to do is like, hey, look, there's so much that we actually like agree about, especially when it comes to eschatology. And I feel like, if we could get so much more accomplished if we're all like on the same side. Like if I believe that there was even, it was debatable where the comma went, I'd give you guys that, it's hit or miss. But I mean, when you have 900, or I guess 895 versions of the Bible compared to 5 obscure versions, And then when you look at the verses in the Greek and context, it's not even close. But yeah, so like, let's come in agreement, because this gives us stronger arguments against those who are like Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists, because this is where they have an advantage to most Christians, because most Christians, they believe we go straight to heaven. And they use verses like John 14:2-3 and Matthew 25:31-34 and others, where it's very like Hebrews 11, like the whole chapter of Hebrews 11. But so they use verses like that, and those verses are very clear. And since Christians tend to argue against them on those verses, they know they're right about. They think, well, we know we're right about this, and they're wrong about, us going straight to heaven. So we must be right about soul sleep. And so what we're trying to do is strengthen our apologetic against, false doctrines and false teachings, and we're stronger together than apart. So that's the goal here.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to unite with Chris and James on this, and we already agree on so much, right? We already agree that believers don't go straight to heaven. We believe that that Sheol is the destination. So we're already so close. The question is, are we conscious or are we not? And I think that this verse, in my opinion, demonstrates that unconsciousness just doesn't work, because if they were in paradise that day, then your view can't be correct. And so, that also, based on all the arguments we just said, it also can't be heaven. So it seems like you should just come on over to our side and agree with us. I did want to try to steel man them for just a second. They might think, well, Nathan, we have these verses in Deuteronomy and Zechariah as well. So let's pull these up real quick and talk about them, because they might think, well, come on, you got to give us a little bit more here. So let's read this. This is a verse that, Chris and James might turn to next and say, all right, well, see, this right here gives us precedent for where we put the comma. So Deuteronomy 4:40 says this: therefore you shall keep his statutes and his commandments, which I command you today. So they're wanting to say, see, there's the word today. And then there's the comma after that it may go with you well with your children after you, and so on and so forth. So why do you think that this isn't good evidence for their position?
Because again, if Luke if that was his intent to show that Jesus was using this verbiage that was used in Deuteronomy and Zechariah and various other places in the Old Testament, I believe he was intelligent enough to put to write hoti after today. And so, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't write the hoti at all. And again, whenever any of the writers did that, it was because they felt their audience, the reader, would already know where the comma goes. And so if Luke didn't feel like it was, questionable, debatable where the comma goes, then I don't think we should be really doubting it either. I don't think it should be a question for us either. We just should be consistent. Like, oh, Luke was just being consistent, with the rest of the Gospels. And the hoti or the comma goes after you, just like 100% of the other times it was used.
Yeah, that would be my staying, is that, again, the context is important. Jesus is saying, truly, truly, I say to you. And in every other instance, the comma is after that, after the you right there, right? It's not after the phrase after that. It's not after the word today after that. It is truly, truly, I say to you, comma. So even if, like, it almost feels like they're just looking for examples where there's the word today and then a comma afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's like the context matters here. We can't read these things in a vacuum, kind of like a theme in our last video. We have to take the context into account. And so the context of Luke 23:43 is a truly, truly, I say to you statement. And I have one more. They have a verse in Zechariah that they also like to turn to. Let's pull that up. All right, Zechariah 9:12. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double. So there's no comma after the word today. It's
the idea it's not going to happen. He's not going to restore to them double that day, but he's like, I'm telling you today that this will happen. And so that's kind of how they're trying to interpret today in Luke 23:43. It's not something that's going to happen that day, but it's like, I'm telling you today that at some point in the future, you will be with me in paradise. Someday in the future, I will restore to you double.
Okay. Well, again, I think the context is really important there. The truly, truly, I say to you, I'm just going to keep going back to that. There's no precedent for Jesus adding anything beyond that in that phrase. So I don't think that we can pull a verse from a completely different context and try to apply it to Luke 23:43. I think we have to read that one in its context. So all that to say, these are the kinds of the verses they'd appeal to, and I just don't think that the arguments here are very strong. I think we have to go with the precedent when there's no hoti. If there was a hoti in the text, right? If there was a hoti after the word today, then they'd have an argument, right? But and we happily grant it. It's like, okay, you have an argument, but there is no hoti in the text, and so I think Steve and I are standing on much sturdier ground, saying that Luke is just being consistent with all of the other instances of Jesus saying this phrase than you guys, because you guys are calling for a novelty without any reason in the text. So other than it's possible to read it this way, and I feel like this has happened a couple times where it's like, well, it's possible to read this differently. And it's like, well, Luke, that doesn't matter.
Peter 2:9. It's like, it could be read today, and therefore our way is correct. It's like, well, that's not how you do it. Like,
yeah, it's possible to interpret it a different way. It's possible to put the comma here instead, but there's no reason to. Or it's possible that they're held for judgment instead of under punishment, right? That doesn't mean that you're correct, though. So, and honestly, and Chris and James, if you're watching this, I'm not saying that you're arguing like an atheist. I'm not using that kind of rhetoric, but I'm just using an example. Sometimes I'll be debating with atheists about something, and they'll kind of just say, well, it's logically possible that this or that is going on, right? Like when we appeal to design arguments or something, because design arguments aren't like a proof of God. It's just like it makes it really, really likely. But they're like, well, there's a small chance, there's that 1 in a billion, trillion, zillion, gazillion chance. And so it's possible that God doesn't exist. And so therefore I'm right. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. And so all that to say, we can't just appeal to possibilities. We can't just say, well, it's possible to have the comma here, so let's put the comma there. We have to actually have a good reason to put it there. So, and I think just like in the design argument, we have a good reason to think God exists. I think we have good reason to think the comma goes after truly, truly, I say to you in Luke 23:43. Do you have any final comments before we sign off on this one, Steve?
We should just always be sure to go with the side that has the strongest argument. Not, a case could be made for this. Like, okay, is it the best case? Because for us all to be in agreement as Christians, if we have that standard, we're going to whatever has the best evidence, the strongest evidence, the strongest argument. That's what we're going to go with, because that gets rid of bias. Because that should be our goal, because our bias is flawed. And so if we have these standards where it overrides our bias, then we're going to end up coming to an agreement. Because if we hold on to our biases, then we can't come into agreement, because we are more loyal to our biases than to actually being in unity with each other.
Yeah, and I think we can come into unity on this. Come on, Chris and James. We've got a stronger argument than you on this one. Oh, man. It's all in good love and good fun. But thank you guys for watching if you made it this far. We think that this video is pretty important for our case. We do think that their entire worldview on the intermediate state relies on this comma placement, and we just don't think they have a good reason to put it where they want to put it. So yeah, we think we're right. So let us know in the comments what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching on the Epitome, go check out the Curious Kairos. If you're watching over there, come check out the Epitome, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
God bless.